Alright, let's cook some meat tonight. So what we have is almost, after trimming, probably just barely under 3 pounds of chuck roast. And by trimming, this flap, this was hanging off over here, and I cut that away so that everything gets cooked evenly over here, and probably this guy will end up getting it when it's cooked. And then I trimmed a bunch of the fat off this side, so there was a 1/8 to maybe even a 1/4 inch of fat along this side, and so I trimmed a bunch of that back. And as you can see, the chuck roast has a lot of fat running through it anyways, so that wasn't going to do anything special for the flavor or anything. Made my own rub. Consists of a fistful of brown sugar, a triple pinch of salt, triple pinch of pepper, some shakes of this and that, and yeah, a little hickory powder in there, some Worcestershire sauce powder, some sriracha powder, just little pinches of those. And it's only been on there for maybe 30 minutes, if that. And you can see it's already, that salts, or I'm sorry, the sugar, the brown sugar is already rendering down, you know, with the meat. Of course, left it out at room temperature. You want to let your meat warm up just a little bit before you cook it. Don't want to just take it straight from the fridge necessarily, especially for big pieces like this. Burger meat you have to be a little more careful with, but for big pieces like this, let them get close to room temperature before you hit them into the grill or the smoker, and that'll help the different seasonings soak in. So I'm gonna go indirect heat for a while. We are going to get to a internal temperature of about 120 or so, and then from there go directly over the coals. Thanks, Chance. Go directly over the coals and get that sear, sort of a reverse sear, so to speak, to get it up to medium rare, which, you know, should be about 160. So we're going to pull it around 135, 140, and just let it rest. And I think that'll take us up somewhere between the rare, medium rare area. So 120 is the set temperature. So actually, I have to admit, I guess I didn't take my grilling seriously enough for years, and didn't use a thermometer a lot. I would just go to time or something visual, some visual cue that would tell me that my meat was ready. So we're going to save these little scraps. We're going to put those on when we sear it. So there we go. All right, there we go. So I would go to like a visual cue, like what it looked like on the outside, or maybe even cutting into it slightly, to determine when my meat was done. And since, I'll cover this up so that little monster doesn't get it. Since I started using a thermometer, I've actually had, I mean, I want to say, a noticeable improvement in results on both sides of the spectrum. So with meat actually being done, for one, which is important for health and safety, but not overcooking meat. So especially talk about things like chicken, for example, especially chicken breasts. They're very lean and are quick to be overcooked and dried out. And cheers to everybody. This was my college graduation gift. The Booker's small batch. It's got a little stank on it, 124.7 proof, but it is so good. And unfortunately, this quarantine has it quite a bit diminished. So maybe I can find some more of that. So we're gonna throw some hickory chunks in here. So I noticed once I started using a thermometer, and I've got this digital one here as well as a stick one in the kitchen for meats like chicken and stuff. All right, there we go. Yeah, I was able to pull them, you know, when they were safe, when they were ready, versus overcooking them, drying them out. And Inge even noticed the other day that even reheating them in the microwave or whatever, they still come out super juicy. So, and that was just a byproduct of using a thermometer when I cook. So, if you don't have one, get one. It makes a difference. It's, I think, noticeable. So, we're gonna let this roll for a while, and let this roll for a while. So, we are cruising along at about 325, 330 right now. Internal temperature is 64. So, it's gone up about 20 degrees already in just a few minutes it's been on. But, it's a big old chunk of meat. Like I said, almost 3 pounds, so I estimate we're going to be about an hour to an hour and a half. If I can hold this temperature, which is about where I want to be. It's not a true slow and low type, you know, barbecue smoke. More roasting on the grill, but then again, we're going indirect heat until it gets to 120. And then we'll throw some black marks on it before we let it rest and slice it. So we're chugging along. Let's take a sneak peek. So there we go. We're already starting the edges, looking nice. Definitely some heat going on there, a little bubbling in the fat. Some browning going on already. A lot of that's coming from the smoke. Again, I'm just using hickory wood chunks. I use the chips in my electric smoker, but I find I think the chunks just work better when I'm dealing with the charcoal grill. They don't ignite up near as fast. So we are at, we're 91 degrees internal now. So up about almost 50 degrees from when we started. So it's getting there. Another, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour maybe, before we stoke this thing up and do the sear. Get the cover back on it. Stop letting all the heat out. And then I'm cooking the whole outdoors. Cheers. Alright, so we're at 100 degrees internal. Ooh. And I'm going to hit it with just a little more seasoning on this top side. When you're working with it, you got a big chunk of meat here. You think about when you slice it, like I'm going to slice it fairly thin. Yeah, 1/4 to 1/2 inch pieces probably. So your surface area, what's actually seasoned, is going to be small. So a big chunk of meat, don't be afraid to get some healthy seasoning on there. You know, you're not going to overdo it or overpower it. So there we go, 100 degrees and 20 degrees to go before we try to sear. Apologize that my grill area is dirty, but I use this year-round, regardless of temperature. And in the winter here, not really a good way to clean it. Anything you try to do is going to freeze before it is effective. So come springtime, my grill's pretty ugly. But we'll get it cleaned off here in the next few weeks. About the time the yard finishes melting, all the old leaves and dog poo gets cleaned up. Spring cleanup time. Alright, we just hit 120 internal temperature. A little alarm went off and I adjusted it up. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. And I had flipped the meat. And look, you can see that fat just rendered in there. It's starting to kind of break up a little bit. So I had flipped the meat earlier. And this is Chance's little piece. Let this cook a little bit. And try to get this So we're going to try to get this charcoal flared up a little bit now. Raise that temperature a bit. Meanwhile, internal temperature is still going up a little bit at a time, so it's not a big deal. But we want to get a little more heat going now. If you notice this second pan, that was full, and it's burned down quite a bit. So, you know, it's the amount of time on the grill, you end up, well, there we go, that's out of there. End up going through a bunch of charcoal, but we'll open up a few pockets for air to flow through. And let this heat up and then get slapped on so we can sear it. Alright, internal temperature 127. Moved, I got these charcoals going over here. And I moved that's a big chunk of meat. And I can't wait to slice into this. So we've got it directly over the charcoals. Like I said, try to get so we got, you know, you get that nice sticky coat that's on here with that brown sugar that was in the rub I used. So you know, look at this. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? I probably have to try that. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. So that's good. Woo. Really good. Yeah. Great flavor. So we're gonna let this sit here directly on the charcoal. Get some black marks on the east side. Well, we got the French fries cooking inside. We're not gonna let it get past 135 internal temperature. Once it hits that, we're pulling it, and we're gonna slap it in a pan and throw a little tinfoil tent over it and let it just kind of rest for a while the fries and stuff like that finish up. So, cheers. All right, I think we're where we need to be. We're at 136 internal. I have flipped it now, so you got some nice darkening of the meat here. I am gonna keep the thermometer inside to kind of monitor it while it rests, and then Chance's piece is done as well. So what we're gonna do, oh, look at all that, look at that, nice fat in there. That was that line of fat that was there. Beautiful. All right, so we're gonna pull this to here, and we're gonna cover that with some foil. And let it continue to climb again. Like 145 is that medium rare area we're shooting for, which I think resting in here should hit just fine. So we're going to get this inside. cutting board out, get ready for slicing it and serving it, and get those French fries done. Okay, here is our chuck roast. You can see you have Chance's little piece over here. That's the flap we cut off on this end to make sure we had some good even heat in. It's been inside. It has rested. It reached an internal temperature of 145 minimum. So we're going to start slicing this. And of course you want to try to mostly do it diagonal to or against the grain. Just because of the way the meat settles once it starts to cool. And do this here. So, oh man, look at that. Look at that. That's just beautiful. The fat has almost all rendered. And that is great looking meat. It's gonna taste delicious. So I switched from my Booker's to the Goose Island Bourbon Country, the 2019. This is amazing and delicious. I normally wouldn't have busted that open this year, but with coronavirus stuff going on, I'm digging into some of my reserves, some of my fabulous spears. So there we go. There. You ruined my video, babe. She's like, what? There we go. That's our chuck roast. And we're about to have some delicious French fries. And the puppers may or may not get some. And that's it.